So I'm pretty open about this. My first year in business, we did 120,000 in gross. Our second year in business, we did 860. And our third year, last year, we did 2.6 million. So the growth has been like...
Okay, so on social media, there's a couple videos that people have sent me about, one, writing down your dogs and your kids into your taxes, because they're like, did you know you can write your dogs off as a guard dog on your taxes for your business?
That is true.
That's true, right?
So the angle that people are taking with that is, like this quote lately that I've been thinking of, which is so dumb, but it's so easy. It's like, how can I help you? Is such a nice quote. Like, if you think about it.
Hey, welcome back to Fit and Frugal Lifestyle Podcast, where we talk about money, relationships, finances, and everything. So today, I'm super excited to start this new series with you guys. I have my friend Matt here with me. Matt,
thank you.
Drink some water.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit more about what you do and who you are, just in case they don't know who you are.
So I'm a CPA. I mean, I'm going to give you the whole story. So I'm 31. I'm a CPA. And I like to throw into that I'm a young dad, although I feel like a veteran dad because I have 3 young kids, but it's been so much work because I have twins. So I have a 4-year-old and I have twin 2-year-olds. So I'm just like in the thick of being in this dad mode and raising young kids and also trying to run a business. So as a CPA, I run a CPA firm of about 20 people. We do tax work, accounting work, and all that. So we can kind of get into that. But yeah, we're all virtual, so that's nice. But yeah, so that's what consumes up all of my time now.
Yeah, so how do you balance all of that? Because I hear the toddler age is when you have pretty much teenagers in a little baby's body.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I like to consider myself a floater when it comes to work. So I feel like some people are very much, I'm going to sit down at 9 o'clock or go to an office at 9 o'clock, work for 8 hours, leave at 4 or 5. I can't do that now with kids. So we'll wake up, we get the kids ready, we go to school, we bring them back, and then I usually sit around at the computer for like hard 3 to 4 hours, maybe have lunch, do some more phone calls, and then I have to get my kids at 3 o'clock is when I start picking them up. Wow. So it's like most people, you get a day until at least 4 or 5 before maybe you wind off of work. So I go pick up my kids at around 3, and then I get back to work and I'm floating on my laptop at the kitchen island or I'm on my phone. So again, I consider myself very stop and go throughout the day and working a lot on my phone and a laptop versus being like heads down for 8 hours straight.
Yeah.
So
do you feel like after having kids that shifted your productivity and your workload a little bit? So
I think so for sure. I think having kids made me realize how much more efficient you have to be with your time. So before I would think, in 15 minutes, you can't really get much done. But it was because really a lack of focus from what I've told myself. And I feel like, I don't know if I have pure ADD, but like, I mean, I'm a squirrel at times. Like I just got a lot of stuff that I'm focusing on. And so what I've realized now is if you sit down for a strict like 5 to 15 minutes, you can get a lot done. Yeah. You know, you can get through 20 emails or get through, 2 little small tasks. And so having kids has made me think a lot about how I spend my time. Yeah. So if I only do have 2 hours at the computer, I got to be really legit with it.
Yeah, it's more about being intentional with that time block too. Because I do like the fact that you said you're a squirrel, and sometimes I feel like I'm like a squirrel on cocaine. Yeah. My brain wants to do like 18 things. Yeah. Like, I can totally multitask. I open 98 tabs. I'm like, fuck, I'm not doing any of them.
Yeah,
that's funny. People are like, oh, but multitasking is good because that's what you want to put on resumes. I'm like, no, multitasking is actually not good. It's the least efficient way you can go about your time because you're diluting all of your focus, like you said. You just pick one thing, do it really well, even for like half an hour.
Yep.
Yeah, you can like just bang it out. One task, get to the next task.
That's a good thing that you said too, is diluting the time, because that's exactly what it is. It's like if you just gave all of your attention to that one task for the next 10 to 15 minutes, you'd get through it. And that's one thing I've tried to tell myself lately too, is emails. I'm in a business where we do a lot of emailing, and emails are just the complete bane of my existence. So I try to get to like a 0 inbox every day. But part of this new email system that I do is if you look at an email and you feel like you can reply in 2 minutes or less, just do it now.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that and it's working really well. And what I've realized is, again, even in 2 minutes, you can get a lot done. My brain would start to read an email and it would seem a little bit complex. I'd be like, I'll do that later. It's just going to take me 15, 20 minutes. And so just making myself focus for at least 2 minutes has been really productive. So I just feel like as we go on in this society and with the internet and these different apps and stuff like that of where you can spend your time just gets more and more scarce, you feel like.
I think I did pick up a little bit of an ADHD trait when you said like, oh, this looks too much, because the brain does get a little bit overwhelmed. Yeah. So I kind of tell people, I'm like, hey, if you really want me to answer you, break it up into smaller sentences. Because if you give me a paragraph and I look at it, I'm be like, not today, saying maybe in the next hour. And you put your phone down and it's been like 18 years. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't get back to you.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, that's funny. And that's what gets stuff too. I feel like with a team now, and like every day I feel like there's just 10, 20, 30 different communication channels coming into me. So I feel like I'm on this constant journey of trying to like structure my day better and like find more efficiencies with time and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I feel like now my friends with no kids, I'm always like, what do you do with all your free time? Like you have so much yesterday, right? So my friend calls me to play pickleball and I'm just like, dude, I can't because of this. And he's like, do you even remember what it was like to not have kids? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And it's just like, what do you do with all your time? I don't even know. So
you have the honor of doing what you guys can't do
whatever
with your time.
I know.
Yeah. So I'm going to value and cherish that time.
You should.
Yeah. So with being a CPA, so you deal with a lot of clients' portfolios from the super wealthy, the rich to like the average American, right?
Yep.
What do you see as a streamline? Like what are their average like spending habits like in between, someone that makes $100K a year versus someone that brings in $3, $4, $5 million a year?
Spending habits between the average and the high net worth or wealthy people, I would say is they focus on buying assets. So most people say that, like, for example, buying like a car, yes, that is a liability, right? That's something that you're likely going to have a monthly payment for. You buying a $20,000 car is likely not going to be worth $25,000 in a couple years. They don't appreciate in value. So I feel like what wealthy people mainly spend their money on is, one, they'll reinvest it into like a business that they own. Or this is where I mean like they'll buy assets with it. They'll buy rental properties with it. They'll buy stocks with it. Things like that. They'll buy assets that appreciate or can pay them as time goes on. And I think that they're very smart on watching their overhead. They don't overspend. I think a lot of people now, if I make $50,000 a year and I have a $20,000 credit card limit, they'll spend not only, the 40 that they take home on their house, their car, their groceries, but they're also using a $20,000 credit card to rack up, money in charges as well. And so that ends up getting them in hot water. They're spending everything that they make and they're spending what's on their credit card. So I think budgeting is honestly the biggest thing that the average American or like average people don't do. They don't pay attention to where their money goes. And as a CPA, like that's something that we focus a lot of time on because we do people's tax returns, we do people's accounting. And so I think that's the biggest differentiating factor. They buy assets and they know where their money's going. Most people don't understand or even know where their money is going.
Yeah, I really like that you brought that up because every time you hear a budget, you think it's like super unsexy or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, you're just telling your money what to do versus trying to figure out at the end of the month, like, fuck happened to like 10, 20K. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you have to go back and like, what did I do on this night that cost me like $2,000?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And when you brought up the fact that they're buying assets and they're buying obviously real estate or businesses, do you see a trend in consumerism that like the average American are spending more in? Like, are they going out more? Are they taking, eating out at restaurants? Are they like, what exactly do you think that they're spending money on that? Because money like on credit cards is so arbitrary, right? It's just a number on a screen.
Yeah.
I don't think people have a sense of attachment to that because they think it's free money because we weren't really taught financial literacy. Because I know in my 20s, I didn't have a credit card till I was like 23 years old.
Good.
I was always been a cash girl. Like I actually didn't know where my money was going either because it was cash. It disappeared like thin air. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like what do you think that habit is like that? Like, do you think someone can course correct into financial literacy later on in life if they've been ingrained that high consumption lifestyle?
I think they can, and I think that's what would pull somebody out of that. That's a great word for it, high consumption. I think something that would pull someone out of that is budgeting. When people sit down and really see where their money goes, it's very eye-opening for them because they have no clue. They're spending it, they're spending $6 a day at Starbucks. They're spending $40 a night on dinner. They're spending, $125 on clothes every week. And if you multiply that, okay, so you're spending $550 to $600 a month on clothes. That's a lot of clothes. You're spending $800 a month on eating out. What would that look like, if I were to kind of make some food at home? So I feel like what does help them course correct is the tracking of their money. And you're right, it's not sexy. But what's crazy is once people do it, I feel like they're really in tune with it and they like that they did it. It's like going to the gym. I'm still bad at going to the gym, but it's like once you've never regretted going to the gym after you went to the gym.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing as with your money. once you sit down and are real with yourself and real with your money, and you have an understanding of, hey, here's what I have, here's what I'm making, here's where it goes, I think people will be so much more better off. And they'll be much more like, whoa, like this is really, like for what I just spent on clothes for the year, I could have, almost had a down payment on something, right? Or had this much money saved. And so until you sit down and like have that hard conversation with yourself, I think that people will always be, like the best way I could describe it, in this tidal wave of just being thrown around, and they're not really riding the wave. They're in the wave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a ratio that you think, not as a financial
Of where their
advice?
money should go?
Yeah. Of what people should be spending their money in?
I think people should be saving at least 20% of their money if they could, because then it allows you to go buy assets, invest it into the stock market, something that will grow. I'm a huge proponent of real estate. That's my favorite thing. So I personally invest in real estate. My clients that I help, from a CPA perspective, all do real estate. So for me, it's like, hey, save that money and go get a down payment on a property that you can rent out. I'm not necessarily, hey, go buy this car, but hey, build your cash up and buy assets with it, which is, again, what you start to see, some of the wealthier people do. Or what I'm new to as well for the last, 4 years is starting a business. People should really look into starting a business. We went yesterday and these kids in my neighborhood were holding like this little lemonade stand. So we go, I grab some dollar bills. It's me and there's 5 of us in my family. So we walk up and I'm talking to him, and it's actually my dentist. It's his son who's doing this. And we're talking to him and I'm like, hey, what's his hard costs in this? Like, what did he pay for all these cups? And he's like, well, I had to go get them. The dad did. And he's like, we're $40 in on costs. They bought cups, they bought ice, and they bought these other things. And then we had probably got there an hour after it opened, and he was already up to like $85.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, like look at the margin there. Like he understood what he was starting. I guess he was watching Shark Tank a lot, and so that's what got him into it.
His margin.
But exactly. And so
his dad did his expenses for him.
What was funny though, he had his friend on the corner spinning a sign, and I was like, oh, what are you going to pay your sign spinner? Like, he's not working for free. Like your friends are here helping you. And so that was so cool, because now kids, and obviously at a young age, start to get a feel for like, hey, this $80 that I just made, that's really not profit. I'm only taking home 40, and then I got to pay my guys. So it's like, back to the wealthy thing, I feel like people need to get an understanding of where their money's going. That's step one. Step two is start to invest it in assets that you can start to grow. And then if you're really trying to take the leap, because when it comes down to it, wealthy people, 2 things, real estate or a business at some point, and start to grow a business. Running a business it has been so fun. It's so challenging, but it's the most rewarding by far.
What's the biggest lessons you've learned about yourself since you started a business that you wish someone would have told you before you started the business? Yeah.
Lessons that I've learned. Honestly, this isn't even a good one, but this is like, meaning it's not a good look on me, but this is what I've learned, that I'm a very big people person. I feel like I got that from my mom. So it's like, you can put me in any room and I'll talk with somebody and I'll be okay. But what I'm not that good at doing is being clear with a team of employees. Hey, I need this done. I'm more so like, hey, if you get a chance, can you do this by like next Friday if it's not an inconvenience to you? You need a leader who is nice and kind, which is, I feel like that I am. I'm nice, I'm kind, I'm relatable, and I'm candid. But the problem that I have is like being stern and direct and clear.
Yeah.
So I feel like now I'm on this journey of leadership. Like we almost have 20 people at the firm. And so that's what now I'm in the thick of learning, is like how to be an effective leader and leading a team. That I've realized is the hardest part of business. The easy part is like, hey, I spent $40 on the supplies and I made 80. I know what I need to break even.
You're good at numbers. You're a CPA.
The numbers part.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things that you learn along the way in the difference between managing someone, because people are emotional creatures, and leadership is how do you get them driven to where they want to do the productivity themselves versus you micromanaging them to like pretty much babysitting them for the tasks that they set to do anyways that they're getting paid for.
Yep.
Right. So that's something that I also learned is that, wow, I suck at constructive criticism when I started, because I'm hearing a little bit of like a people-pleasing tendency. It's like, like, can you just do this for me? And, and I think I'm hearing that, I really like the lemonade story is because it's kind of teaching young kids at a young age, entrepreneurship is something that should be open and exposed to them, not because they need money to buy them things and spend it on things, but it like the intrinsic value that they actually have to work for the money versus just be cute and then daddy will give you $20, and I think that's how a lot of us was raised. That is either you have no money or you got to do something, which is kind of like seeking approval from your parents.
Yeah.
Or kissing ass for $20.
True.
And you grow up to be that kind of adult,
Yeah.
So I'm hearing this. Okay, so on social media, there's a couple videos that people have sent me about, one, writing down your dogs and your kids into your taxes, because they're like, did you know you can write your dogs off as a guard dog on your taxes for your business?
That is true.
That's true, right?
So the angle that people are taking with that is, in the event you work from home and your dog is at home, obviously, you can write off some of the costs to groom the dog and feed the dog if that dog is acting as your, like, maybe work home guard dog.
What if it's like an emotional support dog?
Emotional support, I wouldn't go as aggressive as far as the write-off goes, but you could have a play there for sure, if it's somehow tied into the business purpose of your business.
Yeah.
So like, or right from the other aspect, which is how people do it with their kids. If their kids are advertising within their business or somehow working within their business, you can pay those off, or you can write those off on it, like as expenses.
Yeah. So how do you plan to put your kids into your business?
Right now, my kids are so young that they really have no use. My older 4-year-old would probably help me do mailers, so like letters and stuff. We do a lot of paper pushing in the CPA for like practice. Or it would have to be what most people do, some sort of advertising. So if I wanted to put my kids in videos with me and talk about tax planning or something like that, that could help.
Yeah.
Usually videos and content are the number one way people are integrating their kids.
Yeah. And what are the tax write-offs like for a content creator? Because we're entering a space to where content is king and everyone wants to create, everyone wants to provide value. But what does that look like on the financial stance? Because, as you know, like making content costs a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
So how do we integrate that into a business model, or as just a person that's creating content? How do you make that work?
So content has really opened up the doors here for people to take a lot of expenses. And what I mean by that, a lot of different types of expenses. The best example I have is someone came to us because they went to a prior CPA and the CPA wouldn't let him write off his roof rack on his Tacoma. And little did that old CPA know that this Tacoma was used as in this guy's YouTube channel, and they did off-roading and they went out camping, and it was in a lot of the content. He had actually even shown in the video how to, install this roof rack and all that stuff. So to an older accountant, that makes sense that hey, this is a roof rack for a car. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to basically allow you to write it off. But in our business, we're familiar with a lot of content creators. We do content creation ourselves. And so when it comes down to writing something off, it has to be ordinary and necessary. So one is ordinary. Would someone else spend that similar expense or spend that money on something similar in that business? Two, is it necessary for the business? Which in that case, I would say it is necessary to produce content around this roof rack. If I don't write it, I need a roof rack, obviously. I would need to buy this roof rack. So, but as far as content creation as a whole, I like to consider it as you get to really write off certain lifestyle expenses. So for example, if you're trying to turn a trip into a vlog and a big content series around it and buy certain things to feature in the videos, you're obviously going to get some of that as this personal benefit because you're there living the experience, but you're also there on work. It's the same way now that I have a nice home office in my house, but I mainly use it for work, and I got to write it off. So that's, I think, what allowed content creators to do, is to find a way to integrate their work into their lifestyle and now take some of those as expenses. So, but not only that, obviously all the cameras and all the equipment and softwares and computers and lights and all that they buy, they definitely need to make sure that they're writing that stuff off.
Yeah. I think that's the part that I'm still trying to understand where exactly the fine line is. Because before, I think people were just abusing all the meals and all of the people I traveled with to conferences, every state. They're putting on bar tabs or strip club tabs. They're putting thousands and thousands of dollars every single night of every conference. They're like, oh, it's okay, it's a write-off. Oh, it's okay, it's a write-off. I'm like, at what point is this almost illegal coming from, a person that never really had a business until later in my 20s, that I didn't understand taxes. I didn't know that I could have written so much off.
What, so you were saying, didn't really know that you could write this stuff off as you were starting a business, but you were seeing other people do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it kind of just blew my mind on the fine lines between reckless spending.
Oh, yeah.
I think I was recklessly spending in my 20s because I came from hospitality. It was just about making clients happy, making sure they're comfortable, and taking them to, extravagant meals and all of these things that has to do with bookings and getting turnovers and getting clients to like you pretty much so they, choose you.
Yeah.
Right. So I think a lot of that validation kind of came through reckless spending, and I just ingrained that within my lifestyle too.
Yeah.
Because if you're planning an event, it depends. A wedding can cost anywhere from $50. Some events I've done is $250,000 north, you know.
That's nuts.
Some of the larger events, it's like $500K per night that they're spending. So they want to be treated like kings and the red carpet and the whole thing just for like 6 hours, right? And I think a lot of that kind of came with me into, I don't know, this business world. My first real estate conference, I'm like, oh, I still see the similarities in people spending recklessly. They're doing the same stuff, but now it's a write-off. Yeah.
I think the big dynamic there too is the position that you were likely in at the time when you're seeing the money spent or having to spend the money on your, right, like yourself, is this comes back to, like, for example, we have a lot of clients who are mortgage brokers and they make a W-2, but they still have to spend money on like gifts for their clients and admin to help them with all the like files that they're dealing with. The problem with that is they make a W-2 at their job and they have to spend all this other money on the side as part of their job, but they can't take any expenses because they are W-2. So in your case, if you were a W-2 employee, but were needing to still spend this money, that is something right there that would be tough because you're in a position where you can't take a write-off, but you still need to spend money because these people expect something of you and they want that level of service. Because my only other thought there is, if I am a business and I run something in hospitality and I'm going to throw an event that I know will bring in $1 million, from there, it's really the back end math of, okay, well, sure, I'll wine and dine these people and buy the red carpets and all of this other extravagant stuff. But at the end of the day, I have to make sure that I'm still in the black or the green to make money, right? I don't want to obviously lose money on the event. So, which I think comes back to tracking money. So the problem would be too, some of these people that are going to conferences, blowing all this money, they're not really paying attention to, hey, what is it really going to bring me in at the end of the day? Like, for example, we're going to an event in Houston at the end of October. We're going to spend probably $12,000 to $15,000 on cost to be there. The flights out there, the hotel, the eating while we're there. I like to eat out pretty nice while I'm traveling. So it's just like knowing that, it makes our break-even point even higher for landing clients. So it's like, I think it comes back to reckless spending may seem reckless at times, but it's only reckless if you don't know where you're going and what, like when to stop kind of thing. Because if you know that you're going to make $1 million, maybe you do need to spend upwards of 6, 7, 800,000 because you're still going to net a couple $100,000, you know. But if you're blowing all this money on these things at night and, you know, all these events and stuff, and then you're not really watching your top line, then it's like, oh, that gets you in trouble.
Yeah.
You know?
So let's just say if you're going to that conference and you know that you're going to spend $15K, is there like a certain ROI that you're already anticipating?
For something like that, I at least want to break even. I'm not even so much worried about the surplus. So for example, if we're going out to this conference and we're going to spend $15,000 on, you know, the travel, the dining and the hotel and everything while we're there with my team. Like for example, I'm bringing a sales guy. I'm bringing 3 people total, including myself, so 4. I would want to, if it's going to cost me $15,000, I would want to land $15,000 worth of work while I'm there. And then on the back end, I know more leads will trickle in that we can land later. So for me, it's more so, hey, if I'm going to outlay 15 to go there, I'd like to make 15 while I'm there to make sure that I'm at least at a break even.
Yeah.
On that example.
Yeah, I actually really like the breakdown of your business spending because it's very intentional. It's almost kind of like, it's not frugal because it's, to a lot of people, $15K is a lot of money, right? Because they don't make that kind of money. But I think intentionally going there with the purpose in mind too kind of teaches you the relationship. Like I can kind of see your value as a person too, of how you spend, not just the fact that you're a CPA.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to be good with money. Like have you always grown up with that kind of relationship to money, or has that changed since you got a career in being a CPA?
Done a lot of that too, of like, hey, why am I so different now as I'm getting older? And I think I just want something completely different. I want to be so outlandishly rich. And it's like, some people don't like saying that, but I'm like, I don't care. That's my thing. I want to make a ton of money. I think I've always had an attention to detail, but as far as a relationship with money, it was always very scarce. So like, oh shit, like you got to keep what you have kind of thing. But that was something that I learned the hard way in business. Was the first year of business, I did all the work myself pretty much almost for the first year. And so hiring that first person was very scary for me because now it was that monthly overhead that I had to now pay somebody. But I think being a CPA makes me a numbers guy. And then 2, I just have a love for money. Like I like tracking it. I like seeing the flow of it. I like how to multiply it and all of that. So business, it's just like now it's like sort of like encompassing everything that I do.
Yeah. I think I've been hearing on certain podcasts how they talk about like switching from scarcity to abundance mindset is you have to have developed and continue to work on like an affirmation to positivity and to having money flow into your life instead of like holding on to it. And like you just have to surrender to receive more money. And a lot of people kind of get tied down to I guess, an identity of money is like, hey, I only make 100K a year. I only can do this. And it's very self-limiting.
Yeah.
And how has that, like, is there a mindset shift that you go into creating money and like opportunities for yourself?
What has helped me, so I'm pretty open about this. My first year in business, we did 120,000 in gross. Our second year in business, we did 860. And our third year, last year, we did 2.6 million. So the growth has been like that. Yeah. Do I want to continue on that path? No. I'd like to somewhat stabilize and get this working. That was very fast growth for a CPA firm. But seeing that has now kind of like punted this thought of like, oh, that like obviously there's an abundance out there. This is not a scarcity thing. If we wanted to do 6 million this year, we probably could. So I think what helps go against that thought of the scarcity mindset is that if you, like you said, you're open, and if you focus on the problems that you're solving for people, the money will flow. And I know people hate hearing that kind of shit, is like, just listen to me and then it's gonna like work itself out. But it's like, yo, that's true. Like, just like follow the core principles of like, be good to people, help people, focus on the problem, pay attention to what they need. Like this quote lately that I've been thinking of, which is so dumb, but it's so easy. Is like, how can I help you? Is such a nice quote. Like, if you think about it, think about when you walk into Lowe's. One, it's hard to find somebody in there. So it's like, ideal scenario is someone in an apron walks up to you and says, how can I help you? It's no different from a business perspective. And that's what will bring money. If you're a W-2 role though, like, cause somebody might be watching this thinking like, well, I don't run a business. So like, how am I supposed to do this? Well, I have employees. The best way to look better and make more money and to get more responsibility would be somebody coming to their boss or their leader and being like, how can I help you? Like, how can I further develop what we're doing here? And so I think no matter what situation you're in, it's the more you can help, the more value you can provide, the more money will come.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because I think that's what I'm hearing a lot too. Just be of value, be of service. And it always circulates around that, you know, like the 5 love languages is like, be of service to others. But a lot of times you don't, what I learned lately, it's that sometimes you want to, like, let's just say your love language is something different. You only know how to give, but a lot of people cannot receive because they receive love in a different language than you are able to speak. And that applies to every business relationship I've had, personal relationships, friendships, and, you know, with partnerships and relationships, you know, that's hard because we're in such a highly value-driven, like, relationship-based business to where, you know, like, you really have to honor where people are at too. Because there's a lot of people that can't receive help even if they need it. Yeah. Like, they just kind of need that space, right? And, you know, moving into money and relationship and mindset, it's like, what, kind of like when you have your kids, now that it's taken up most of your time, how do you find that balance and how do you integrate that relationship with your kids into your life, and how do you build an intentional lifestyle like around that so that you and your family, and, you know, I grew up with parents that were never there. They worked a lot, right? Also, like, immigrant mom, single mom, never saw my mom. So that I don't want to repeat that, like, that generational pattern to the kids that I'm going to have. So what kind of advice, or, like, you know, now that you're a dad of 3, like, how do you want to move forward with the decisions that you make so that your kids can feel included in your life?
I think time is a big one. Like you had just mentioned, you didn't get to spend a lot of time with your parents. I feel like parents now, they consider spending time with their kids is like parents are sitting there watching TV and the kids are on an iPad. Like, that shit is not spending time with your kids. Spending time with your kids is like having conversation with them, playing outside with them, going on a bike ride with them. That to me is like, it's focus time. Like, you're focusing on your kids. So I feel like keeping a balance of that every day, not just like obviously you have busy spurts of work where it's like, hey, certain days you're only going to get to hang with your kids maybe an hour or two before they go to bed and after them being at school and all that. But I don't know, I think setting a good example for them too, and like also now running a business, I think puts a lot of pressure on me to perform, to take care of my kids. Like, my kid goes to private school and that shit is not cheap. That is so talking through that with my wife is like, if you wanted to maintain doing that, now there's this level of like, you have to make so much money per year to do that. And then there's always that thought of like, well, I'm going to start here. And what happens if you had to take him out of that and go put him, you know, like maybe in a public school or something? I went to public school. So I don't know. I feel like to do that and to be a good dad, to be like a good business person, to be a good spouse, like the love language thing. I love that you brought up. Me and my wife do that. It's funny now seeing that after having kids, love languages have changed. Like, my wife's love language now is act of service, like doing something for her out of like doing the dishes or doing something that she otherwise would have to do, she's like, yeah, do that for me. That's what I want now. Because with the kids, it's harder. So, but I feel like all of that is hard to manage, and all of it is ever so changing that it's going to take focus to pay attention to it. Like, I love Ty Lopez and how he broke down life was like health, wealth, love, happiness. I'm like, those are good pillars. Those are like good sort of like, all right, if you're lagging in one area, like in my health, and maybe I've been focusing on my business on the wealth side, maybe it's like, okay, this is somewhat stabilized now. Now I'm going to take a vacation and go work out or go travel with my family. Like, so monitoring those throughout your life with focus and intention is, I think, the real answer.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you'll never get this perfect balance to where you're always in harmony. Some of those will always be higher operating and some of them will be lacking.
Yeah. I really like that you brought up the love language, like kind of changed with you and your wife too.
It did.
We call that the mental load.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because women tend to remember more of like the really intricate little details on tasks and chores that has to be done.
Yeah.
That over time, I think it builds a lot of resentment into the relationship if men are, so why don't you just ask? But I think right there, you got the key. It's that you should be in service without us having to ask.
Yeah, not provoking the answer, yeah.
Yeah, as a gender stereotypical role of like a dual income household is not just like the man provides and the man, brings home the money or whatever, like the old school traditional thing. But now if the woman has to do it, we have 3 shifts now. It's like the kids, the house, and the job, right? So where's the time? And then I feel like there's a lot of women that goes around like, oh, I'm a boss this, I'm a successful entrepreneur, and I'm like, yeah, because you don't have to be home with the kids. Like, there's nothing wrong with being a housewife. If you like, there's so many tasks that are unpaid that adds up to like a whole skill stack. That like if you were to switch roles with your wife and had to be home all day, you're like.
She calls it the invisible workload, and it's funny now. My wife's thing is like, she's like, I identify as a dad today, which is like her digging at me, just like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just like laying around. So, I mean, yeah, there's definitely, and that's what it is. It's like it's such a balance. And the more I'm on this like leadership journey of dealing with people, I'm like, being clear with people is so important. Like even with your spouse, like it's funny. We were talking with a friend last night, me and her were FaceTiming them. They're going through a divorce. And at the end of it, we're just talking. Cause like me and my wife, I like to say I'm very loud and outlandish. Like I'll say some shit that sounds, when people meet me, you either hate me or like not love me, but you either hate me or you're like, all right, this guy's cool. But I feel like I'm trying to be honest and candid with people. And so it's funny that like me and my wife, people will think that we're like scream matching. We're just like, nah, we're just bantering, we're arguing, and we're bickering. Versus some people are like, oh my gosh, like they think that that's maybe like going at each other's throats. And so that's just our way of communicating. It's very clear. If we're not happy about something, we're saying it. And it's just like out there versus harboring it, like you said, and then it becomes some sort of resentment. So, and I feel like that trickles down in everybody's life. Like if you're clear with your kids and you're trying to be good with them and you're trying to hang with them, if it's your spouse, if it's your boss. So I try to trace everything back to like, it will always move. It's always going to require your focus to see like what's lacking, and then just being clear and candid with people is I find the best way to do it.
Yeah. And I like that you brought it up because that's just authenticity.
Yeah. It's a good way to say it.
A lot, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what is this word? Like, what is this word? Like be yourself. It's really hard, but a lot of people, it's just so uptight and they're so conditioned to be this version that's only curated for that social event or that, performance in front of others, that they cannot crack a joke. They can't breathe. They can't really be themselves. They can't just let loose and just have conversations to where you feel like it's a genuine connection. And I think with social media too, because a lot of people can turn on the camera and do a talking head and blah, 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 like a robot. But in person, I'm like, this is not the same person that shows up online. And it's really hard to kind of identify or blend the two of the online persona versus the human. And that's kind of like the direction that we're going with AI already writing everything for you, that everyone now that I'm reading all of this stuff, AI is amazing. Don't get me wrong.
It's a lot of good stuff.
But after a while, I'm like, I can't hear the voice anymore because you want to connect to that. You want to feel like it's a real person.
Yeah.
It's a brand after all, but like you want to feel like, this guy's funny. Oh, this guy's a dick, but I like him. Just like you said, right?
Yeah.
Like if we're going to be assholes, you might as well be a genuine asshole, but that really is there for people and actually truly cares about people.
So yes, I love that. And here's what I find almost scary to that. They say that our generation is likely the last one to where they feel, I guess the people above that are older than us, that we're the last generation that can communicate effectively with people online and in person. Like some of the kids I see nowadays that are leaving school, I'm like, dude, no shot. This is hard to sit here in front of cameras and talk, but I'm also like, this is also proof that like I would want my kids to be able to do this, to sit here and have a comfortable conversation, to be in front of somebody,
Not
read someone's
scripted.
not scripted, read someone's body language. Is this getting awkward? Is it going well? Like most kids now would crumble under that. And that is terrifying to me because it's like my first job was working at Smith's, bagging groceries, talking with people. And it's like going to get carts from the lot and all that. And now I'm like with people getting desk jobs, and it's not bad, but I feel like we're losing that person, that human to human contact. And I'm like, I'm a big, like, my type of motivation is like winner, loser, like, come on, grind it out. Like, you know, and so I'm just like, don't be a loser, like be out there, talk to people. Don't be worried to like, I don't know, be silly or say something that you feel like you slipped up on or something. Cause I feel like that's natural and that's progress. But if you're like more of this introverted, you don't want to talk to people and you're just like not even trying, then I'm like, that scares me. Cause I feel like those who will really succeed are those that can communicate effectively in person and online, right? And like always have that personal skill. That's why I think back to like, I was poor growing up, single mom, love my mom. But there's things that I got from my mom that I love, which are my candor, my like all of my people skills. My mom is very much a people person, but my mom's not a money person, right? Like that was now where I'm changing the gap. Like I'm gonna focus on money. I'm gonna focus on structure and building a business and like the logistics of that. But when it comes to like, I need clients to love me, I'm going to pull out my mom from that because I know that she was the people person. Like, so I don't know. I feel like, again, people just need to worry about being well-rounded, talking to people while also being book smart is how I look at it. Like do your studies, get in the workforce and learn from people who are doing what you want to do. But I'm like, focus on being a good person. Go out there. Like, my wife had to go into the office. She works at home now. She's a very good people person too. We compete about it. We're just like, you know, almost who's better. But I find my wife is very direct. Like so funny enough, my wife was my boss. That's how I met her. And the first day I met her, I'm just like, whoa, you're rude. Cause it's like, she's so firm in the work. She's a firm woman in the workplace. I always make fun of her, like when she shook my hand, it hurt. Cause like, she's very firm. And so I'm like, sometimes I think she's being rude, but I'm like, and most people don't though, that she's just very direct. She's not one of these like, if you have a chance, can you do this? She's just like, can you have this to me by Tuesday at 9 a.m.? And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, so.
You're like, hi, where are you?
So, yeah. So I don't know. Like for me, it's just with having kids and running a business, I don't even know where we were on this, but being good as a people person and putting yourself out there and trying to get in uncomfortable situations, but also now learning from people, making good decisions, thoughtful, you know, focused decisions.
Yeah, no, it's enlightening to hear that because there's a lot of books out there. Obviously, we're in real estate and we want to profit first, profit this, but there's a lot of people that kind of go against that and just like, hey, people first because profit will come, right? Because there's a way to build holistic wealth that doesn't really demonize or walk all over people or become that person. Yeah. And from, what I'm hearing from your wife is that it's actually amazing because assertive women are firm and friendly, but if you're too nice and you're flirting with everyone, and if you're too firm, you're a bitch, and it's really hard, right? So I really like that you can pick that out as one of the traits. Obviously now that you're married, but it's a lot of women can't even develop that skill is because we're so ingrained to be people pleasers and to be submissive and to, you know, just be a office, whatever. Yeah,
for sure.
Like a secretary,
admin, or exactly.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But they never step out of that, and then it's just like a disparity between that and like a boss bitch who where it's too domineering, too this, too that, and it's just really hard to find a balance in a man's world because that's after all what we play in, you know. Yeah,
my wife says this. So it's funny. The guy we were FaceTiming last night was an old boss of ours, so we both worked for him, and we're obviously still friends, but my wife got a review from him one time as like just a one-on-one manager talk. And he was like, man, Sarah, I think you're too aggressive. And she was like, fuck that. You would never say that if I was a man. But the only reason you're saying that is because I'm a woman in the workplace. And so I come off bitchy. And he like ate his words. It was so funny. Cause then when you start to look at the counterparts in the department of the other men that are in those positions, they're the same way. They're bossy and they're mean. So it's just like, she called him out on it. And another thing too is like, she always was like, oh, well, women feel underpaid. And she was like, but it's because they don't speak up. Like she was like, and it's to that point of where you're saying like, maybe they're not so confident in their skill set to say, hey, you're underpaying me, you know, compared to this person. And so, yeah, I feel like that's what it takes though. It takes like that people person, the confidence. And like, that's another weird thing that I feel like people throw around a lot is confidence. But I don't know, people should the more you talk to people and become confident in situations, then I feel like that builds. It's a skill and like a muscle that you have to work, you know? Yeah. And that's my My worry now is with my kids and seeing other kids now, they don't care to try to break through that. They're so introverted. Like, it just kills me when I'm out to dinner and I see a kid on an iPad at a restaurant. I'm just like, oh my, I'm gonna pick it up and throw it away. Like,
it hurts my feelings because I grew up in a third world country playing with rocks and mud and climbing trees and like falling off trees.
and you're at dinner and you can't talk with your kid. You're just letting them sit there. And then the headphone thing, don't even get me started on that. They put like headphones on them.
Meltdowns and tantrums because you're taking away their game, or
Oh, it drives me nuts
2
as a
more
parent.
minutes, Jimmy, you know, and they're like,
Yeah.
and they're freaking out, and I'm just like, oh my God, like what happened to this society? I don't even have kids yet, and I'm kind of afraid to.
Wait till that kid is 18 and you try to sit. And again, this is different. You have cameras and like this kind of stuff, but I'm also like, could they sit here and have a conversation? Oh, they would crumble. Yeah. They would just melt in their chair. They wouldn't even know what to say. And I'm just like, that's so bad. Like, people got to get people again and like learn how to talk with people and interact and communicate. And I feel like that, and to the money and business side, that's who will make money. So like, people are so scared that AI is going to come in. No. AI is going to come in and it's going to be useful to people like me and you who run a business. You already just said it. You're utilizing AI for the content stuff. We utilize AI on the tax research side. The people who utilize it but still have the people component are who are going to win. You can't just rely on this to do all of your dirty work.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Yeah, I love that winner mentality that you have because it's still soft. It's very people. It's very leadership role-esque. It's not like toxic masculinity or whatever that other word is. Is there any last like philosophy you want to leave here with today on?
What would be my last? Okay, we're gonna go the money route first, because this is like, no matter what side of money that I talk about, which, right? So to like set a clear example, I strategize in taxes. So like, if somebody came to me and they make a lot of money, I'm going to help them pay as little tax as possible. And my tip here is that a lot of people that want to do that, they're already making money in their business, and now they're like, hey, I got to focus on saving some of my money from taxes. The number one reason that they can't is because they don't do their bookkeeping, which is like this tracking of money, where their money goes. So that's honestly my biggest takeaway here, is that if you're somebody watching this and you are a W-2 employee, pay attention to where your money goes. Track it for a week. Put it in a spreadsheet. Make 10 categories: food, clothing, fun, entertainment, whatever, and just see where it goes. And just sit down with yourself for 30 minutes, focused, right? And don't try to scamp out of it after 5 minutes, and just sit there and look at it for 30 minutes. I feel like people would be so much better off. And then, I don't know, my overarching would be like, hey, like, focus on all areas, but then like take the time and understand that like something will slack at times, and just be sure that you're focusing on it to bring it back. So like, for example, this last month and this next month, I will be working a lot. My time with my kids will fall. My family time will fall, my fun time will fall, and my work time will go way up. But then on the back end, I'm going to take time and see, hey, where am I lacking, and now focus my areas, right? Or focus my time in other areas. So that's kind of my last bit, but I don't know. Be a people person and take your time and be focused is probably my last thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge you for being here. So thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you. This is awesome.
I know I won't bother you until
tax season. Yeah.
Until tax season.
I know, it's a grind. Yeah.
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 Cool. So thanks, Matt.
Oh, thank you. Love it.
Thanks for tuning into Fit and Frugal. Hopefully you got some valuable insights from Matt today. You can connect with him on IG.
Instagram, at Matt Bontrager.
Cool. And then you can find me on IG at Tonosaurus. Stay fit, stay frugal. Peace.